Hi, and welcome to News in Depth. I'm Adam Lowenstein. We're coming to you today from the F.W. Olin Engineering Complex here at Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, an institution that will serve as the backdrop, both thematically and literally, for our trio of stories today. You'll hear from Zeeshan Usmani, a 31-year-old Fulbright scholar from Pakistan who's getting his doctorate here at Florida Tech. Nothing unusual there, but the work he is doing as part of his thesis, developing a computer program to study the effects of suicide bombings in the Middle East, has generated controversy. And later I'll be talking with Dr. Richard Ford, head of Florida Tech's Harris Institute for Assured Information. With recent computer attacks on several federal websites, including the White House, and more talk of the vulnerability of smartphones, we'll discuss how information security is increasingly relevant to all of our lives. But first up today, a report from our education team on the College of Aeronautics, one of the cornerstones here at Florida Tech. The school has been led for the last year by a man who knows a little something about flying, former astronaut Winston Scott. Florida Tech President Anthony Catanese says Scott is like the school's own celebrity, and whether he's speaking to prospective students or out in the community, people do gravitate toward him. Education reporter Michelle Spitzer recently talked with Scott and Catanese. Here's her report.
Well, what I hope to do is really advance the College of Aeronautics, and by advancing it, I mean opening up to more students. We'd like to increase our student population here in the College of Aeronautics, and we want to grow the college and thus the university to the point that it is very well renowned. The school is already well regarded. Our graduates do well, and people speak highly of us, but we're not as well known as we'd like to be, and we don't attract the numbers, the quantity of students that we'd like to attract. So we want to grow the school. Well, we do that, first of all, by ensuring that our programs are not only second to none, but that we advertise it. We don't do a lot of public relations here at Florida Tech the way some other schools do. So we need to step that up. We need to make ourselves known to potential students, and then the students will come. And then if we provide them with a top quality education, and education that's fun, because flying should be fun. You know, anything you do in life should be fun. If we can provide those things, then I think we will attract the numbers that we want. And then we want to have our students, of course, go out into the workforce and make good, positive contributions.
He's the ideal person for that job, Dean of the College of Aeronautics, not only because of his military and astronaut background, but for his genuine interest in higher education. We use him a lot for recruiting. He's just phenomenal when he meets with high school kids and talks to them about his career and what an aeronautics career would be, as well as engineering and science. He's equally interested in engineering and science. He's such a celebrity that he's the only one I know on the Florida Tech faculty that when we go somewhere, people come up and ask for his autograph. None of our other people are asked for their autograph.
Well, it's a privilege for me. I'm very honored when people want my autograph or they want to take pictures with me. I appreciate that very much. People are very kind. But what I try to do when I go out in public is I try to make what I'm talking about understandable and relevant to the general public. You know, the space program, flying in space is a very complicated endeavor. It's not a simple thing. But I try and talk about it in a way that anyone can understand it and they'll have fun with it, because it should be fun. And if people enjoy what you're talking about, then they will naturally gravitate to you and gravitate to that subject. So I try to make it fun for people.
I hope he stays with us a long time. He's obviously a person in high demand, but I just hope he becomes a long-term part of Florida Tech's evolution and history.
Well, I see myself here a long time. I hope this will be the last full-time job that I hold. I'd like to stay here, and at some point we all have to slow down. I don't want to use the word retire. I don't know if I'll ever truly retire, but I like it here, and I think this is a good fit for me. I believe it is, and I'd like to stay here for a long, long time.
While Scott's history as an astronaut has been well documented, he continues to enjoy sharing his stories with the community. We recently caught up with him at the West Melbourne Library as he talked about his 2 missions to space in front of about 100 very interested children.
My name is Winston Scott, and I am a NASA astronaut, and technically I'm a former astronaut because I don't fly in space anymore. I work at a university right now, but I flew, when I was an active astronaut, I flew 2 space shuttle missions. I flew on Endeavour. I performed a spacewalk from Endeavour. My second flight was on a space shuttle called Columbia, and we don't use Columbia anymore, all right? But I flew 2 space shuttle missions and conducted 3 spacewalks. And what I'm going to do is show you a video from my second space flight. We spent 16 days in orbit aboard Columbia. There were 6 people on the crew. There were 5 guys and 1 gal, so we got kind of a mixed crew there. And it was an international crew. We had people from America, and we had people from other countries, and you'll get a chance to meet them. You'll see us climb into the space shuttle. You see us launch into space. Then you'll see us open up the payload bay doors so that we can get power to the ship and live up there for 16 days. You see what it looks like to eat, sleep, and live in the space shuttle. You see us capture a satellite. We had a big 3,000-pound, $10 million satellite that malfunctioned, and we had to get it and bring it back home. Well, the way we got the satellite was my partner and I went outside and we had to catch it by hand. We couldn't get it with the space shuttle's robot arm. Then you see what it's like to re-enter the atmosphere and fly home and land. So you see all of 16 days condensed into just a few minutes. Let me thank all of you for coming out and visiting with me this afternoon. I hope you're enjoying your summer, and I hope some of you in the audience will decide to work for NASA when you grow up, and you know what that means? You have to go to college, get that college degree. And then a lot of people go to college some more and they get a master's degree, and some people get doctorate degrees. So education is very important no matter what you want to do in life, okay? So you've got to do your homework and do real. Astronauts do homework. Do your homework, do it real well, and we'll see a lot of you as astronauts in a few years, okay?
I want to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
School officials are hoping Scott's star-like appeal, certainly on display with those kids, will help bring additional recognition to Florida Tech. In the meantime, his trumpet playing just might do the trick. Stay tuned for the conclusion of our show, where you'll hear Scott, Catanese, and other staffers from Florida Tech jamming for a good cause. Now, the challenging story of Zeeshan Usmani, a student here at Florida Tech for the last 5 years, where he's earning his doctorate in computer science. The native of Sukkur, Pakistan, has generated attention for the subject of his thesis, a computer model that simulates what happens during the explosion of a suicide bomb. Now, Usmani says the project is designed to help investigators, emergency personnel, and others who respond to these horrible events. But the project is nonetheless generating strong and sometimes negative attention.
5 years ago, a young Pakistani student looking to further his education made his first trip to the United States. Zeeshan Usmani came to Florida Tech as a Fulbright Scholar, a prestigious international exchange program created by Congress in 1946 to further the understanding between people of the U.S. and other countries.
Soon after my graduation, I started looking for a scholarship, and I was looking at a scholarship for Government of Pakistan, even for Saudi Arabia, Shaving Scholarship, Rhodes Scholar, all kind of scholarships. And even the USA wasn't on my first list. And then I saw the advertisement of the Fulbright Scholarship, and then I learned more about it, and I found out it's the most prestigious scholarship in the world. It's by US State Department, and I thought, oh, why not give it a try?
Zeeshan brought his family to America doing his early research on ways to increase impulse shopping in supermarkets. But his drive to help his countrymen continued to shape his feelings.
I started looking at the ideas, what I can do as a computer scientist to improve the life of the people back home. And then I realized like the basic need of the people, food, shelter, and security. I am not in the food chain. There might not be really good thing I can do in the food industry, and not maybe in the shelter, but yeah, security.
Zeeshan wrote his thesis on an event that's happened more than 60 times over the last 2 years, the suicide bombing.
Every single day, every time I open the newspaper, there is some incident here and there in Pakistan talks about suicide bombing. And I got an idea of what if I can model this behavior, this whole phenomena, this whole suicide bombing event in computer science, and what I can learn.
He developed a computer model that tries to understand how damage and death from attacks can be reduced.
I wanted to do something which can be beneficial and can be useful back home. If implemented correctly and with the right data, it can definitely save a lot of lives.
Zeeshan had mixed feelings about America due to stories from his countrymen and in the local media. All that began to change as he traveled the country and began to meet the people, like Bill and Lane Anderson.
I think the first time we got together was over Thanksgiving dinner, or one of the first times that we had them in our home. And that initial encounter involves a lot of getting to know about a different culture. He impressed us right away as being very bright, a very gifted student with a multitude of interests.
He's very stimulating, he's very interesting, and something that struck me is that he's someone who's passionate about what he believes, and he's passionate about his faith, he's passionate about his family, he's passionate about his country, and he's passionate about his studies.
Zeeshan will be headed back to a country in turmoil with a new view of America. He's written several books on his experiences and someday hopes to go into politics. But his country is always on his mind.
So I feel the load of like 30 million people on my shoulders. So I said, so these people are expecting something from me. So whatever I do, there should be something related to Pakistan. So I said, okay, let's save lives. So if I can use computer to save lives, good. Even if I will be able to save one life, I'll feel myself successful.
After finishing his studies in the next few months, Usmani hopes to take his wife and children, who are here with him in Melbourne, back to Pakistan. There, he has plans to run for the national parliament. For better or worse, and mostly for the better, we're an increasingly computerized society. Laptops, smartphones, websites, email, it's all a major part of our lives. But so too, more often now, are cyber attacks. Creating next-generation solutions to these issues is the task of Dr. Richard Ford and the Harris Institute for Assured Information. The Institute is relocating to the new Harris Center for Science and Engineering here at Florida Tech. We're pleased to have Dr. Ford with us to discuss his endeavor and the future of cybersecurity. Dr. Ford, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about this assured information and the society's sort of goals.
Sure, we're really excited to be talking about assured information because so often we talk about security. And when we think about security, you think about putting a lock on your car or maybe an alarm in your house. But when we talk about computers, what you want to be able to do really is trust the information that you're getting. And in other words, have confidence in the information, be able to act on it. And that's what we're talking about when we're researching how to protect information, how to make it more reliable, how to really have assured information, confidence in what your computer's telling you.
But so assured information is different then from the sort of computer security programs I might find in an electronics retailer.
Yeah, it's a little bit broader. So when we think about the sort of computer programs that you're running to give yourself security, they're great. And I think every home user, every business should be running, say, antivirus software. They should have a firewall. And that's one part of the problem, but it's not the whole problem when you think about the information that's on your machine.
Okay. What are some of the main issues, those are the major issues that people are going to be facing, both consumer level and beyond, and companies, as we go forward, as these hackers and others get more sophisticated? What kind of things are we going to be seeing?
Well, anybody that's running a computer at home is already very familiar with spyware, viruses, Trojan horses, all that kind of stuff. And that's a huge issue for people that are running a computer at home. When we're running a business, you also have to worry about sort of more organized cyber attacks. So what will happen is somebody will get a group of computers and they'll all decide to attack your website at one time, causing a denial of service attack. And then when your website's down, maybe you can't do business. Furthermore, we see computers are an integral partner of our society. When you go to the grocery store, you're not just buying a pineapple. You know, that pineapple got shipped on a system that was controlled by computer, it was ordered by computer. And so computers have become interwoven into every aspect of our lives. And when we see cyber attacks, we shouldn't just think about a computer not doing what it should. We should think about the consequence of that happening too.
Now, you talk about cyber attacks. We've seen recently publicized attacks involving very high-profile websites like the White House and other federal agencies. Is that the sort of level of attacks we're going to be seeing? And there's even talk that these may have emanated from North Korea. I mean, is this really going to be the next generation of sort of warfare almost?
Yes, I think when you look at the modern battlefield, what you're really talking about is information dominance. In fact, one of the many things that armed forces are wonderful at is having the best information as they're out there. And so if you can strip them of that information dominance, you strip them of one of their huge tactical advantages. The flip side is that, you know, there are various groups out there who recognize that this is an area where they can attack and have great impact. So dropping the White House's website, for example, is a very public attack on the nation, right? And it's actually a very easy attack to accomplish. It's just a matter of volume and effort. And so one of the interesting things about next generation cyber war and next generation attacks is they're asymmetric. That means a very small number of people can have a very public impact.
Okay, good. So solutions, and obviously that's going to be a main part of the mission at the Institute. What kind of things are you developing, and what will be developed to handle these situations?
Well, that's a really great question, and that's something I could talk about for hours, but I think you probably wouldn't let me. So let me tell you about some of the projects we're doing. We're trying to find ways to let computers protect themselves. Right now, the way it works is somebody attacks a computer, and a human is usually involved in making certain that that goes correctly. What we want to do is have computers be able to detect an attack, detect that something's wrong, and not only respond to it, but respond to it in such a way that the mission of that computer, be it a web server, a mail server, or a machine out, you know, on the battlefield, is still accomplished. And this sort of mission-centric survivability of information is something that we're very, very interested in. In fact, the center is an interesting and unique opportunity because we're being encouraged strongly to do interdisciplinary work. So, for example, I work with biologists as much as I work with computer scientists, and it's very exciting to draw from other disciplines and put them into computer science.
Dr. Richard Ford is the director of the Harris Institute for Short Information. Thank you
very much.
The 29,000 square foot Harris Center, funded by a $5 million donation from the Melbourne-based Harris Corporation, is scheduled to have its grand opening on October 23rd. And finally today, a rare musical interlude here at News in Depth, courtesy of Anthony Catanese, Winston Scott, and other talented faculty members here at Florida Tech. The band, called Twitchy, which is an acronym for the names of the original members, will have a benefit performance Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Gleason Center here on campus. Proceeds will go toward a statue of Dr. Jerome Cooper, the founder and first president of Florida Tech. And that's our show. Thanks for watching, and our thanks to the faculty and staff here at Florida Tech for making us feel at home. Be sure to tune in next week for more stories behind the stories on the Space Coast. From campus, I'm Adam Lowenstein. See you then.